The feeling that continued to linger as I played this game was dread and frustration. Yomawari Night Alone is a game developed by Nippon Ichi Software and published by NIS America. Before I continue, this video is going to have a lot of spoilers, so you have been warned. I love survival horror, and well, basically horror in general. So Yomawari's creepy graphics combined with its cute chibi look was so out of the ordinary that I had to check it out. You play as this nameless little girl. The game starts with the heroine walking her dog Poro. It's a simple tutorial where you learn what buttons to press. What made it stand out was the shock factor. Just like the instructions told me to do, I threw the rock and... Goodbye, Poro. And I felt like the most terrible person in the world. The heroine goes back home with her empty dog leash, causing her older sister to worry and search for Poro. Unsurprisingly, her older sister still hasn't come back when nightfall came, so she decided to go out and look for both her pet and dear sister by herself. So that's the basic premise. Throughout the game, I kept wondering where on earth their parents were and why they even go out knowing that there are freaky yokai spirit things roaming around their town. But I guess there wouldn't be a game if they just decided to stay home and hide under their blankets. Your main item in Yomawari is the flashlight that her sister drops when she disappears. The only way to actually see spirits is to switch it on, so I wouldn't recommend walking around in the dark. You just wander around with your flashlight, finding items and solving puzzles while avoiding ghosts, like many horror games. I'll classify each yokai as 3 basic types: the passive ones who don't kill you even if you approach them, the passive ones that kill you if you approach them, and the ones that straight up kill you. I'll just add a 4th one for boss type ghosts. Okay, maybe 5 for other types of ghosts. The heartbeat system was actually pretty good. The closer a spirit was to the protagonist, the faster her heart would beat. It enhanced the unsettling feeling I got every time I explored different areas. Whenever the heroine's heart started pounding, I could feel mine race as well, especially if I was in a new place or I saw an unfamiliar ghost. There is no combat system in Yomawari. You could throw rocks in order to distract certain ghosts, but I never actually used it that much. I just ran past most spirits and did the occasional rock throw if the path was too narrow and risky to run through. There were also a lot of bushes and various background assets to hide behind. But again, I didn't find it too useful unless I was surrounded. Sometimes choosing to duck and cover didn't even work because you needed to move to a certain spot for the control input to respond. It didn't matter too much anyway, since most of the time, I would already be dead before I could reach cover. One thing that stands out to me in Yomawari is how indifferent the heroine is to everything that's happening. Her innocence as a child definitely plays a part in this, but she expresses that all ghosts are just scaring her. That is a huge understatement. I don't know if she's been paying attention throughout the whole game, but they've all been actively trying to kill her. Apart from that, she empathizes with the yokai and wants to be nicer to them. She seems to accept that they're a part of the world. Violent or peaceful, they're just something that happens to exist along with nature. I was expecting the game to be a bit linear, so the sandbox map really surprised me. You could freely roam areas, but you would be blocked by this hairy spider thing if you chose to go to a place that the story hasn't taken you to yet. Each chapter will gradually open up sections of the map to you. The background art was detailed and the color scheme really enhanced the sense of dread while exploring each area. It was a bit annoying having background assets block my view because sometimes a ghost would be in the same alley I was in and I'd die not knowing what killed me. Also, it was a bit easy to get lost since buildings and walls would often be reused. I found myself thinking, wait, wasn't I just here like a minute ago? So many times. That was mostly in town though. Other areas in the map would have a more distinct look, so that didn't make me feel like spamming my map open every few steps just to make sure I was heading in the right direction. There were a lot of usable items across the world, but there wasn't much variety. Mostly rocks and coins. There were also fish biscuits that you could use to feed cats, because why not? The coins collected are offered to the, Jizo? Statues in order to quick save. You heard that right. You can't just pause the game and save any time. You have to find these statues. And if I can recall correctly, Quick saving doesn't mean you can just quit the game and reload it later on to find yourself in the same area. You would have to restart the chapter because the only way to actually save your progress is in your bedroom. You spawn in your house at the beginning of every chapter, so you would have to interact with the desk in your room to save the game. And you can't go back in your house once you leave, so remember to save before heading out. Those statues outside used for quick saving are basically checkpoints that you have to pay in order to use. So stock up on those coins if you don't want to lose a ton of progress because of the distance between each statue. The good news is they also act as fast travel points when you discover them. They don't require coins when you want to teleport, so that's a relief. Regardless, the save system is the major reason why I didn't feel like thoroughly exploring every inch of the world. I just didn't want to go through the trouble of finding something really cool, and then dying and spawning somewhere far away. I picked up whatever collectible I found, but they didn't really tell too much because of how vague and brief the descriptions were. But the game doesn't hold your hand apart from the tutorial. Even the story is mostly shown rather than told. You would have to piece together whatever clue the game gives you and form your own theories. Oh yeah, the protagonist likes to decorate her bedroom with some of the items you find outside. I'm not sure if that's the best thing to do with stuff that are probably haunted, but whatever floats her goat, right? I don't think I did or found too many optional things, so I won't be talking about secrets. But I'm pretty sure there may be more items or yokai to find apart from the main story ones. Especially since free roam mode is unlocked after you finish the game. Yomawari is a really quiet game. So quiet that I had to double check if there was more background music during the game or if my memory was being bad. Turns out there really is only one song in its soundtrack, the one that plays as the credits roll. Most of the things you'll hear in-game are ordinary nighttime stuff, like, you know, your footsteps, some crickets, your heart beating accompanied with probably a supernatural being whispering in your ears or growling at you. Typical evening. The strange noises do work very well combined with the heartbeat system I mentioned earlier. The biggest drawback from that mechanic was that it wasn't just her stamina draining faster as the yokai got closer. Her running speed would become even slower. And you know what that led to? Lots of annoying deaths. The worst part is many of those frustrating ghosts are 100 times faster than the heroine. Seriously, her movement speed was just fine when there were no ghosts around. They didn't need to lower it further. Early in the game, I was running down in the middle of the road and this naked thing came out of nowhere and smashed into me 1 second later. I didn't think too much of it at the time. I thought, well, that was unfair. Maybe I'll just walk on the sidewalk from that point on. But no, sadly that wasn't the last one. The boss battles were 10 times worse. They weren't even scary anymore after I died a couple of times. Timing is everything in those boss fights. If you choose to run and use up your stamina just a split second too late, you're dead. It's great that the game forces you to memorize their attack patterns, but it's useless if you keep dying because of something beyond your control. What? I was so far away from him! This game is going to be the death of me. With 7 chapters and an average of 5 to 6 hours for completion, I felt like it was a cheap way of lengthening playtime by making the game unnecessarily difficult. Despite my complaints, I enjoyed Yomawari Night Alone. The atmosphere was definitely spot on. I jumped and panicked a lot during most of its playtime, but I will most likely never play it again, ever. Because every time I think back, all I remember is death. Thanks for watching. Give a like if you enjoyed this video and feel free to comment on what you thought about the game. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook for updates and random posts. Oddly enough, I'll probably play the second game in the near future, Yomawari Midnight Shadows. It may or may not be as frustrating as Night Alone, but I'm sure I'll still finish it either way because I like to suffer, I guess.